Right. Songs too. You'll have like 42 minutes worth of music. Forgetting. Basket home, so this is our basket. It's ready to be back. So that's okay. I love your 80s band. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. How's everyone doing? Good. Happy fall. Fall is my season. I'm here. Libra season too. Libras. Yeah. Kids doing some fun this weekend. Did you go to the that way? Classes are good. Fine. This week we're gonna keep talking about planning. Think about the environment, so we'll focus on classroom design. Today, think about co-teaching. We'll talk about the technical of my group. So talk about we'll just jump into this first. All right, so later on, in this semester, you're going to be doing kind of like a little mini lesson, teaching a lesson in class with a partner. So you'll be using co-teaching strategies, which we'll talk about a little bit today. And so I just want to go over this assignment guidelines. If you all have questions, you can start thinking about who you'll partner with. So this really needs to be, I know that I'm like not a fourth group work person usually, but because this is really a lesson also in co-teaching and using co-teaching strategies, you have to obviously have a co-teacher. So you'll have to work in pairs. And so this is the only fourth group. So we'll do this. So obviously you'll develop a lesson, right? We've been starting to work on what that looks like. And so there's a modified kind of lesson plan. You won't have to make this big, crazy, long lesson plan for this. You can use what you create for this, as part of your final long lesson plan assignment if you want, so that you're not doing double work. So it's up to you. So yeah, you'll choose your topic, your grade level, your content, and then obviously align standards and objectives. You'll do this. You'll think about classroom management and co-teaching strategies, which we will talk more about. Today, co-teaching and classroom management we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. And then you'll teach the lesson. So it's a 15-minute lesson. So everyone put their acting, hats on and pretend you're kindergartners. We love to do that. But yeah, so you'll teach the lesson to us, we will try not to be obnoxious. But it might be helpful too, I think, as you're thinking about when you're teaching your lesson, maybe you might want to assign like someone a role or something, right? To say that like you're going to be the student who's talking to the other person in your group a lot, right? Because we also want to be thinking about classroom management strategies and how we can utilize those. And we saw some of that in the observation video that you all watched last week for that assignment. So anyway, so that's not necessarily required, but it might be nice to, you want to help set the scene so that we can all be helpful to your presentation. And so you'll teach that, and then you will write a reflection. So obviously that won't be due until a couple of days after you actually do your lesson. So you have some time to reflect on how you thought it went. And then you'll use this modified lesson template. So you'll see that it has a lot of similar things we've already been talking about in terms of using backward design, but it's much more condensed. So what's that? Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Questions? Can be any content area. Yeah, you can use supplies from the comments here if you want, from the cabinet. If you want to explore those, I mean, we'll use them. Maybe explore them a little bit today if you want to just else in there, you all had a chance to look in there, but sound good? Okay. So if you as you go through it and you figure out your plan, your question, just let me know. Okay, so here's our learning objectives for today. We'll talk about classroom environment, creating inclusive classrooms, thinking about differentiation. Okay, so when we're thinking about how we want to set up our classroom, what do we need to keep in mind? What are some things that are important to consider? Okay, so you want to design with few distractions. Safety. Yep, inclusivity, making sure that have students with physical disabilities that are able to get around, right? Other obviously, accessibility needs, considering those. What else? Yeah, so yeah, learning styles, thinking about who your students are and how they engage. I'm here that mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you want to have I mean, that certainly helps with sound, but also just like comfortable spaces, right? For your, students to go and read and have like quiet, reflective time. Um, yeah, reading in a quiet space. Yeah, your desk setup, right? Yeah, do you use desks? Do you use tables, right? How does that work, right? Because you don't necessarily need to have desks, right? But if you do, maybe you have the configuration of your desks and how that allows you to move, right? Like this is a terrible space. If I can't move around at all to talk with you, and only be like here and squeeze through these sides, right? Um, yeah. Well, let's design our classroom. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, let's start by looking at some classrooms first. All right, so here's just some pictures I got off the internet. Um, what do you know? Very colorful. What else? So yeah, this is like the teacher station area, right? And then that's sort of separate. It looks pretty organized. Lot of bins. Well, here. Yeah, so there's tables. Like the other one was yeah, that's a lot. So it seems like there's more space, or the use of space is better maybe here. Yeah, so kind of, yeah, content area, learning on the walls, right, visual aids and reference points, or maybe there's schoolwork up there. Mhm. The little shirts on their chairs. Yeah, each table has their own like storage bin. I love this idea. Mhm. So different kinds of seating too, right? Um, so obviously, right, your classroom, all your classrooms are probably going to look different, and right, some will be dependent on the actual physical space, like the footprint that you have, um, and what you, how creative you want to be, right? Um, and what do you value is important for student learning. Um, so we could get into groups of like 2 or 3. We're gonna, I'll give everyone a large post-it. There's some like art supplies in this in here. Um, so there's parchment paper, glue, there's crayons, paint. Um, but yeah, so there's art supplies and things in there. Um, and so in your groups, you'll design your classroom. So think about all the things that you saw in there, what you read in your textbook, and you've seen in classrooms that you've worked in, right? So these are some of the suggested things obviously to think about. So student seating arrangements, where your desk is or how you are placed within that space, storage, technology, so the kinds of technology you'll have, your design aesthetic and what that looks like on the walls, obviously thinking about accessibility, thinking about all the multi-purpose spaces that you would have, right? So whole group, small group, individual space, right? All of that stuff. And so, yeah, so then we'll do that for like 15 or 20 minutes. Or if we need more time, you guys can design your space. And then we'll put them up on the wall, and then we'll just take a little gallery walk, and we'll walk around, we'll take little post-its, and we can leave feedback and thoughts or questions on everyone's. And we'll just come back and reflect it. Yeah. No, it could be any preschool through second grade. So and just go help yourself to the, you know. Yeah, sure. Start groups here. If we want to, how many members are there today? It's not fun in a group. We That's fine. If we have 3 groups. Maybe some folks. You can take out anything you want. Hi, well done. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose so much weight. So we're doing this. You can just join a group maybe that has some paper out, and or if you want to find, I don't know, yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and come in now. I have like one. I guess I should have it. I should have like 5. I'm gonna get some there. Where? Like. Yeah, you just like that. Yeah. Okay, let's see. This is a weird question. But this little thinking. Okay. Here's my one pair of kid scissors. Underneath them. There's some napkins too. I'll put our playlist back on. That features, that's the door we have right next to it. And then it's throttle in the back. I mean, let's start by, where's the best? Yeah. Like we do. Yeah. I think it's for. Oh, yeah, that proprietary. Oh, yeah. Like next to but the daycare campus, there's little closets right next to it. Yeah. I think, yeah. That might be the yeah. You bring the fun. Yeah. Yeah. I've learned enough. I said, here, get all your initial sketch here and then things. Inspired inspiration. What do you all have here? We're trying to see where the but I think that would be perfect. Yeah.
Remember, teaching with intentionality, planning with intentionality. Why am I putting these things in my classroom? What is its purpose? Right? They haven't yet accepted. They're to take care of their own plate and then sort their fields. Everything's squared here. Maybe not. Yeah, they can have a lot of people that Yeah, there's just one pair, so you guys gotta fight over them. Or share the nice early childhood way. Yeah. Are you ready to cut stuff? Yeah. Okay. You're done. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a big thing. Yeah, that's a great here. Oh, where they put their right there. Oh, yeah, that's. Yeah.
I said. Like, oh, yeah. It's weird. Here. Yeah. Yeah. But it's. Oh, and then we can measure some of those like accurately. Just need their straight lines. Yeah. Like those. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. You don't. Yes. British Fire. Yeah. I mean, is it going to be fine? We've had this bunch of records. Yes. Yeah, like a long period, like a long. That's also. Yeah, like you need to have the, yeah. Okay, this one, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we can, yeah, it's on. I guess I'll be there like. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So I think we would probably. Following, because I think that. So. So that would be so the 11th. And then would our people like after we were. Yeah, so yeah, you guys can go, yeah, okay. We'll just, yeah, we'll review for that. Thank you so much. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so the 11th. And I'm just gonna make a note. Yeah, or but the library. Like, just everywhere. Keep calling them. Also, coming along, look at it is little desk. It's like from the little phone. Yeah, so maybe like right here. What's going on? Oh, yeah. Like, I'm saying like. Yeah. No, the same like. Windows. Oh. No window. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How are our classrooms coming along? How much time do we need? We can't take that much time. We're not winning, art awards here. Make them as beautiful as you can. Oh yeah, like there's another. You like this, but what? I think that was pretty. For the time and that's my brain. Like 5 more minutes? Is that enough? Too little? Is that okay? Yeah. Oops. The thing here, it's not fancy. Yeah. You don't want to mark your. Yes. All right, so if you are almost, if you're done, you can put your stuff up, so this we can put theirs up. Oh, they're right. Oh.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah, sure. That's your fun. Right. Done? Right, get your snack. Then, we'll say that. All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk around with our snacks if we want and bring a pen. And there's Post-it notes near every poster. So just go around and check out what your classmates put together. Leave some comments, reflections, feedback. And then we'll come back and discuss. So go ahead, get up. Not sitting class today. I know, you guys are all like, I'm feeling really tired today.
Yeah, these will stay home.
Yeah, you'll do a quiz, but. Yeah. You put with us, leave, grab a post-it, put it up there. I guess I'm in the department.
How are supposed to do
Yeah, you have to kind of turn your head, you know, there.
Maybe it'd be better if I took it.
It's okay. And then when you're done leaving your feedback, you can go to your poster that you design and read the feedback to your group and then stay there because we'll talk about all the posters.
Yes, something like. They just were like, if they. I wouldn't even windows. The kids look at.
There's three, yeah. There's that, yeah. We see it.
Yeah. So it's like, are these those like stairs? Yeah. I was trying to do it. Yeah, okay. But I think it also like. Yeah. Obviously, because they sell these like. Like sense. You can't sell those like a little bit out. They're my. Oh, yeah, I guess we put the grade on. You know, like the grade level, like what, like. I think they did. Yeah. Ours is fair, all right.
Okay, so if you're, yeah, go to your poster board, save on your poster board if you're done leaving comments or your, sit. All right, so we'll just have Lauren to go.
This way, yeah. Wise. And then.
Okay, so everyone, you looked at your feedback. You will be able to a lot of problems. Kind to each other, which is great. So do you want to just explain to us your space and what you did and why you did it and maybe some of the feedback that you got?
So this is the class door. So I guess when we first walked in, you can see the objectives for.
What grade did you have in mind?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten, okay.
And like the class schedule was like, kind of doing the responsibility for the day. The class. Got the smart board,
Mm-hmm.
and physical was like, but those things would go on.
Yeah.
And then on this one, it'd be like the calendar and then the class. So
Mm-hmm.
there are desks. We did so we did two different kinds of like tables. We did desks that are separated, and then we did like the whole table, and so it is like alternating of them. The number board and the alphabet. Awesome. The code.
Oh, yeah, the hub is, yeah.
And then each little desk has supplies. And here's like for all the class supplies we do with different teacher tools. Here's a teacher desk. And then just little circles, like where each kid would sit for teacher time. And we found out how most like kindergarten classrooms have sinks. Like yeah. So here's sink 1 and sink 2.
Mm-hmm.
Here's like the type test of like.
Oh, yep, great.
Granted, you're really comfy pillows for the reading area.
Nice.
Sit on a carpet, some pillows, and some books.
Great.
And
I mean-
I imagine there's windows and lights.
I imagine that there are windows. Yeah. Yes. And a teacher chair, yeah. You'll be standing a lot or sitting on the floor. So dress comfortably. Any comments or feedback that on there that jumped out at you from your classmates?
The main type of
Name tags.
Yeah, the class objective.
Yeah.
And then with the classrooms, especially just like the kids to visualize like what's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Good job. Wonderful. All right, let's move to this group. What do you got for us?
Our door is, it was supposed to be sideways, right? But this is our door up here, the class, oh, this is. Sorry.
You want to move it? Turn it.
Yeah.
One better.
Class activity.
Mm-hmm.
The seats and table is here, so we have our things around. Realistically, it'd be a lot more spread out. This would be smaller. The tables are each, the chairs mainly gonna touch on the big side all use the board up here. This is the carpet where, like, making from. Like right up stuff. These are chairs around, the teacher chair right here. We would have like posters around the classroom, either like educational or inspirational. Our storage is up here. We have a play area with like cubbies with the toys and everything there. Reading area over here, very comfortable with pillows and stuff with the books right next to it. These are cubbies, and then we have a sink as well. Yeah, the baby water, the whole bathroom and things.
Is this kindergarten? Kindergarten. Yeah, you probably won't have a bathroom.
Oh, and then we have the supplies also in the middle of the tables. Or then for the, I already just really liked how colorful it was.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, like the little play area. That seems like that'll be a luxury item in the classroom to have an extra, to have enough space to have like a dedicated zone for just kind of play. You might have to use your reading area or your whole group rug times, right, for that, but yeah, great. What was any feedback that people like the pillows?
I like the include area. Very colorful.
Colorful, yeah.
I love the inclusion of the segment for students and
Great, good job. Looks good. All right. Last but not least, what do you got for us?
preschool kindergarten book. It would be kindergarten for bathrooms and stuff. But
Sure, yeah, it can be like pre-K
So
for
we
plus.
have the entrance is here.
Mhm.
And then right when we come in, there they have their locker area, so
Mhm.
put their coats, their book bags. And then we have like a training area, just have assignments. Then we have a whiteboard. And then in front of that whiteboard, we have the rug area. So there's even area for quiet time. So when they read, here's their library, we have windows near the library, and we have a play area with windows as well. And then next to that play area, desk. In front of the teacher's desk, we have like an iPad technology area. So we do that. Then we have a closet space for the teacher and other supplies. In front of the iPad area, we have a whole longer table for like their whole group activities or small activities as well, like snack time, preschool. And then they would have chairs with like the comfortable mats on them. And then we have 5 groups of 4 desks. So like obviously, desks. And then we have lights on the ceilings. It would be like these types of lights depending. And then yeah, their bed area.
Great. What were some of the feedback from your classmates?
We said we like a small whole group activity table that separates from the desks. They like the common area. Common area. So here we have dimmer lights or lamps. Like for them. They like that. And then
Color. Yeah. No, that's great. I think you all have included lots of good things. And so I want us to think about like the intentionality piece. So some of the things we thought about, like safety, accessibility, inclusion, how do the things you put in your classroom kind of, have those things in mind?
for safety.
Sure. Yeah, I would say like calming areas too are good for children who have like sensory issues, right? Or autism spectrum, children who might get overwhelmed easily, right? Maybe they don't have any, disabilities or IEPs or any of those things, but it's nice to, have that. So I think that's a nice kind of accessibility inclusion area. What else did you all have in your spaces and thinking about any of those?
Actually, I remember like that when some it was something like that. I just think I'm going to learn the same place, and I turn around and say, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can patient with this. And I believe like
Yeah.
maybe when they're excited or like seeing like
Yeah, they need
go hyper, like that's what I'm excited and like they do this thing because like he was like he basically
Right.
It's like this little thing.
Well, right, because like young, right? Like in early childhood, all of our students are really learning regulatory skills, right? So how to regulate their emotions, their behaviors. And so, yeah, having these spaces where they can kind of just chill out and techniques. Maybe there's like some yoga poses, in some of your rug areas or something so that they can do some like meditative exercises. Yeah.
It's nice, but we don't think like implementing this kind of stuff like children, little children.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important, right? I mean, like some of the biggest
classroom management issues that you'll have are regulatory issues, right? I mean, it's just kids being developing essentially, right? So trying to find ways for them to regulate their emotions. And so having spaces where they can take a chill moment, right? Having things on the wall that might help them, like, right? If I feel this way, these are the things I do, right? These are the steps. So yeah. All right, what else? What else? Anything else you all?
I really like all to be a little bit spread out. really
Yeah, sure. We're not, this is not to scale, right? It's okay. Mm-hmm.
And then for the Bay Area carpet, I had done like there's a railroad so that the kids get an extra weight at that.
Yeah.
Water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like, yeah, you're touching on important things too. So we'll talk about, right, curriculum domains. So thinking not just about the content that we're teaching, but like when we teach content, how do we also incorporate all of those developmental domains? So you're saying like creativity and imagination and using fine motor, gross motor. So, right, always thinking about that. Obviously, when we're planning for early childhood, we should always be thinking about development and inclusion of like what's happening with those students at that particular age. So yeah, so things like that are important part of our design planning, not just our activities too, obviously, right? Our lessons, but how we create the space. What else? Anything else? All right. Good job. Nice job, everyone. Give yourself a round of
If you love your poster and you want to see, yeah, take that to me and put them in.
You can take a picture of it. All right. Okay, so now here's a little bit about inclusion in classroom. So what do we know about inclusive classroom? That's okay. Yeah, so definitely community learning style. More so inclusive classrooms and inclusion classroom in like a Chicago public school, going to have children with varying abilities, with maybe IEPs, right? So individualized education plans, 504 plans, which are a little bit different. We'll talk about that. Right, so you have a mixed kind of group of students. You'll have kind of what you'll often hear referred to as like gen ed students, which are just kind of your more typically developing children, and then everything in between.
I was with them till 5 and over is not right. Understand the structure of the systems that they're being taught with the teacher.
So this is a district in Wisconsin. That was nice.
Early childhood, every classroom is a classroom. Well, whether you're talking about children with abilities or just children that have had different life experiences up until this point. Look at your environment differently and how is the environment accessible to every child? And how is your environment set up so that every child is getting exactly what they need? Our mission and mission statement are anchored in high expectations and outcomes from all students. So living that out at your childhood level, that was important. It all starts with that IEP process. So really having that evaluation team writing the those functional goals and objectives. My goal is that services such as speech, OT, all those could be embedded right within the classroom. So when you are an early childhood kid, like 3 and 5 years old, you want to do what your friends are doing. And to have children, the expectation that they're going to sit and do one specific thing at any given time that you choose doesn't always work out. But when it's an itinerant model, having those service providers coming into the environment, working with kids doing things that kids are naturally doing, is in the best interest. We used to have our kids that are the kids in child care and then kids with IEPs that were joining that group. So it kind of starting out to those more individually, which has really turned into that all that joint leadership. All kids belong, both regular and special ed teachers and therapists. All their team purpose. Teachers learn from other teachers. And so when you have special education people in there, whether it's an OT or a PT or a speech person or just a special education teacher, they are modeling different behaviors or using different words that as the regular ed teacher, you can listen and go, oh, I may be able to use that with another child. Class has relationships. Before we were like thinking maybe we're going to be there for the rest of our lives to support him with all the things that God. But we are so happy to see that it really makes us right now. Those skills has developed so much. It can truly create something wonderful and makes us very proud. I think what we know now is there are more questions than there are answers, to be open to every opportunity that we're given, to learn and to develop always what's in the best interest of the child, to give them those opportunities to show you what they need and to listen to them. I still worry a lot. But I'm quite at school. So he comes to the class. He is truly he brings it. Support. We didn't expect that, but we love it. We know that young children have a variety of experiences with all of their peers. And we also know that not only children with, but those without disabilities benefit from inclusive environments. Wisconsin's vision, every child a graduate, college and career ready, is not possible unless our children with disabilities have the opportunity.
So thoughts, reflections from that video? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so some of the design elements. Right, right. Yeah, so some kids will get pulled from your class and do their, right, if they have IEPs for certain things, will get pulled and do them separately. But sometimes it depends on your classroom makeup. You might have a special education, like classroom assistant who will help do some of those things. Right, but I think the important part about thinking about inclusion in early childhood classrooms is thinking about that everyone's doing the same things, right? We're supporting all children in the same ways, but maybe we're providing some extra supports in some area or extra supplies or a different desk setup, right? So we're really thinking about what those needs are and we're differentiating to ensure that we support those needs. But we're not really changing the way we, what we teach or what those topics are or, right? Because we want children to feel like they're a part of the group, right? And we want other children to see that everyone is a part of this group. And so, right, we are thinking about kind of equity approaches, right? And that we're providing extra where someone needs that or pulling back on something if someone needs that. But we're essentially kind of, right, working towards the same goals, objectives, like that's not changing. And if you, because there, and this is if thinking about, right, children who have IEPs or 504 plans or have learning, some different learning styles, whatever it might be, right? Not thinking about like cluster programs that will include children that have like severe disabilities, right? So those children will likely be in a separate, so some schools, right, have cluster classrooms, so they have, right, those will be students that have much more severe learning disabilities or physical disabilities. So your classrooms will likely not have that, right? You have other less severe. So right, and thinking about how we create inclusive classrooms. So how many of you have heard of the universal design for learning? I think it's passing. It was like, I'm like, taking share. How many of you have heard of UDL? Okay, well, we will look at some of that stuff today. So universal design for learning is a way in which we think about planning in our classrooms to ensure that we're just creating universal experiences, right? That we can design learning, like I was just saying, right? Same goals, same objectives, and the way we set up those activities is going to support all the learners in our classroom. So we're going to use differentiated instruction and blended learning models, right? So blended learning models are going to be like station-based, right? So, right, a lot of you have these kinds of classroom setups, right, with your teacher stations, right? And these are great for differentiated instruction, right? Because you can have students doing small group work or individual work in other areas. And here you can be thinking about how you create different groups. So, green group is a group who is, I don't know, right? They need a little extra support. So you're gonna scaffold for them, you're gonna assess that and kind of see where they need to go next, right? Versus, maybe the orange group. And the orange group are, they get it, right? They're like ahead of maybe the rest of the class, so we might want to provide them with some more challenging activities. Or maybe we want to mix those groups up, right? So that we can create a scaffolding between the students, right? So those group or that orange group, right? They get mixed in with that green group, and then they're maybe supporting that learning. So, right, these are all things you're going to have to think of when you start planning in your classroom, right? How do you, right? An assessment is a big piece of that, right? We want to be able to assess learning so we can create groups and, right, support differentiation of instruction. Co-teaching, right? So I think embracing co-teaching, some people hate co-teaching models and some people love it. And you might not have an option. It might be an option for you and it might not be. I would say most CPS classrooms are like, it's you. So you're doing it. No one else is there, right? But if you do have an inclusion classroom, you might have, like SICAs in your classroom, right? So those special ed classroom assistants. And so, you can embrace these kinds of models when you're thinking about how you're supporting all the students and collaborating with another teacher. Right, thinking about culturally responsive and anti-bias education, using these kinds of models to ensure that everyone in our classroom is feeling, right, included, that there's representations of all of our students in the things we put on the wall or the pictures that we show or what, the videos that we play for them. Right, these are all ways that we create inclusive spaces. Oh, so okay, this is just a quick intro to
universal design?
People ask me all the time, what is UDL? UDL is Universal Design for Learning, and it is not a new name for differentiated instruction. There is a framework, Universal Design for Learning, and there is a framework, differentiated instruction. And although they can be used to complement each other, they are absolutely not the same thing. So let's talk about a little analogy that I like to use to explain the difference. Imagine for a moment that I was going to have a smashing dinner party. Now, if it was universally designed, I want to make sure that everybody is going to have an awesome meal at my party. And so I'm going to anticipate or predict the variability of possible guests. Now, as my best friends, you're all invited. And you're going to bring partners and friends, and I might not know exactly what they eat, but worry not. I can predict the variability. I'm going to predict that some people might be lactose intolerant, might be vegan or vegetarian, have cultural needs, or they might be picky eaters. And when I can predict this, I realize that it would be a really bad idea to serve a casserole, right? Because imagine you come into my party, you're thinking you're going to have an awesome time, boom, tuna noodle. Oh, I'm going to exclude a lot of people. But here's the thing. When I think universally, I recognize the importance of having different options and choices for everyone. And so when I universally design a party, I am going to serve a buffet. And the same thing happens in my classroom, is we can recognize and embrace the incredible variability of our students and identify the barriers that we know that some students face. And so if I recognize that I might have some students who struggle with language, some students who are decoding below grade level, some students who need additional challenges, I can create a buffet of ways for students to learn and share what they know using firm goals and flexible needs. Now, differentiated instruction uses flexible groupings to make decisions about what specific students need. It's a great way to provide tier 2 support or additional intervention for your students, but when you plan using differentiated instruction, it can feel a little bit like you are a short order cook. If you're coming to my party and I say, I'm going to have to make something for the people who are lactose intolerant, and I have to have another dish for everyone who is vegan, and I want to make sure I have something gluten-free, I am now a short order cook and my kitchen is on fire. And here's the thing, you don't get to make choices for yourself. So we want to universally design instruction. We want to be really proactive and planful about identifying barriers and making sure that we're not reacting and providing additional dishes for every student. So the next time you feel a little frazzled and on fire with planning because you're worried about every single group of students, take a step back, identify some barriers, and make a flexible buffet and allow learners to self-differentiate and self-direct their learning. Because at a buffet, when everyone makes their own plate and you provide feedback and support those choices, I'm telling you, it is a much better party.
All right, so thoughts on that? We're not gonna watch the, well, I'll let you watch this video on your own. So move to the next. But thoughts, reflections, questions. Like if
Yeah, zero.
Yeah. Mhm. Right. Well, and I think it's really important to know that, you know, you're not going to be able to use UDL principles or thinking like immediately, right? Because you really need to understand who your students are, right? And what their needs are. And then you can start really thinking about those elements of UDL and what you would include. And then using differentiated instruction and kind of blended learning models to really, right, focus in on students or groups of students who need specialized support. Right, so they, yeah, like she was saying, right, it works together. So you can watch this video about what this looks like in practice. And here are some other. So these are some other examples too. We won't, we can, they're in the slide, so I encourage you to watch them. Next week you can go back through these. These are just examples of what these will look like in classroom. So this is blended learning using station rotation, which I really love because it's like center-based learning. It's like very active. There's different, I think we mentioned it already, right? Like this idea that you have your teacher-led station, and that's where that kind of differentiation is happening, and that support. And then, right, you have collaborative stations and tech stations, and you could have all kinds of stations, right, where your students are kind of rotating around, and doing different activities, and you can differentiate those activities too, or you can use UDL principles and have different kinds of things available for the students to do that's related to whatever math, whatever concept you're teaching, right? So if you're teaching math or you're teaching reading, so those will look different on the slide. There's a video here too, about supporting English language learners. So this is, right, obviously, if you're teaching here in Chicago, you'll have a lot of students who will be learning English, which will be their second language. And so, right, just thinking about ways that we're supporting those students in particular, right, and universal design principles should work in those cases as well. But obviously you have to think about, right, having language support and other kinds of support like visual aids and, things like that that will help their language. Co-teaching. So, right, you'll do some of these in, for your teaching lesson. So there's, this one's fine, but there's all kinds of different co-teaching models. Right, so there's the station teaching, which is probably like something if you do have, like a classroom assistant or someone that's a model you might use more, right? Because SECAs are not necessarily, right, they're not licensed teachers. They have been working in education for a long time, so they're amazing. Is anyone a SECA? Yeah. No. But they're great, right? They're amazing and helpful. And so you might have them help you work at stations, right? So they are managing a station while you're doing some kind of intentional instruction. There's two. So if you're using true co-teaching models, you'll have two teachers, right? So you can use kind of team teaching, you can do this parallel teaching, right? One can be teaching and then the other can be providing support, or you can alternate, right? So maybe you teach part of the lesson, the other, your other teacher teaches a separate part of the lesson, or you do the teaching and someone does some activities, right? So there's all kinds of like documented. So here's some, I think these are all like one stuff, right? Right, there's a lot of really well documented co-teaching models, and so you are welcome to use any one of these when you're doing your little micro lesson. So you decide, right, how you want to do that. So some other important considerations. So I've been mentioning these things, right, like IEPs and 504 plans. And so here's just kind of a side by side what they are. So these are, so 504 plans are, they could be things like, your child has a peanut allergy or something, right? So that could be like a 504, right? So 504 plans aren't always like learning based or disability based or, right? So those are a little bit separate. So yeah, you'll learn all about them. You will get evaluation plans from people who are assessing students. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But they actually told the mom to come every 2 years. Not 1 year, like to renew it. Yeah, and well, thank God,
I
her
think it
child was progressing a lot.
Yeah.
And instead of she did it in 2 years. In the first year, she did it 2 times. Because we started like talking more. Because we were appointment and this thing was speech.
Yeah.
So they were doing
Yeah, I wonder if it depends on the right, like what the IEP is for and how often they're assessed within the school. So yeah, it might vary, and it might vary by else school districts do, but even though it's like federally, like a federally mandated thing. But yeah, so those are obviously important when you're thinking about inclusion classrooms, you need to know, right, like, what are the IEPs you have in your class, what 504 plans exist, and those, right, each of these will come with instructional kind of plans and, right, ways to support the student. But again, right, you're not changing, right, the goals and objectives and all of that stuff, that's all the same, right? But it's just, they'll come with plans for what kinds of support you should include to ensure that the student is learning in the same way that your other students are. Okay, so, if you have your computer, you can click in the slide. So, you can stay in your groups that you were just in, since 1, 2, 3. And just, so there's like a classroom profile in the, on the Google. The Google. So this is just kind of a little like case study of a classroom. So just take, a few minutes to read through that. It's just a few pages. And reflect on these questions. So take a few minutes and read it, and then you can come back together with your groups and think about these questions, and then we'll come back. Take it away.
you're done reading, then you can get in your groups and start discussing. Okay, so what did you all read about? Let's talk as a group of two. Mhm. Universal designs for learning.
So they have like all these restrictions. So these professors like, they can like have kids do the stations and they people and then like have it in some chamber. Like even when things stuff is later and then like and then the other students,
Right.
they can go to put the classroom um people, like just putting the kids where they're supposed to go in order to succeed in
Sure, so they have the buffet often, right? And then you're supporting the students. Where to go. What else? So how would this environment here, these instructional approaches, kind of support inclusion?
Like, discuss some grades.
So there, yeah, so like this classroom has co-teaching model, there's many teachers in this space, right? The flexible way the classroom is designed. Obviously, these students have IEPs and plans, right, associated plans with them, and so, right, those are ways in which that they're being supported. Right, it specifically calls out UDL, differentiated instruction. They have lots of areas, stations like you all mentioned. So, right, so they have their lead teacher and then they have a sped teacher and then they have a paraprofessional, so that would be like your SICA, right? And some classrooms, yeah, depending on what students you have in your classroom, you might have a special ed teacher in your class too. That would be like a licensed teacher who has a special ed endorsement. And then obviously like. So yeah, so this classroom is great. It has a lot of support, right? It has a lot of, it's good. Yeah, I've been in some preschool classrooms where I've seen this, right? And where they have the lead teacher and then there's a special ed teacher. The special ed teacher might not always be there every day, but there's a special ed teacher that rotates through some of the classes and then they have.
Like, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. No, because the public school is not mandated in the same way as like DCFS, like mandates like a center-based care. So yeah. So like Chicago Public School, I think now it's 24 students, the max. So you can't technically negotiate it, you know, when you're right, because you're unionized as a CPS teacher, and you can't like necessarily negotiate for class sizes, but it's definitely something that gets discussed during those negotiations. They used to be very big. My son's like first grade classroom was like 3. It's wild. They did have a seat of it and a sped teacher who came. So yeah, they'll just it all depends. Our favorite saying in early childhood, it all depends. Okay, any other thoughts on this? Like all right, well, here's some additional resources that you should flag and hold on to. Particularly like the UDL guidelines, right? And all of them are important, but the UDL guidelines are going to show you exactly what your missile design for learning looks like, the different categories of that, and so just make sure you review those things. So you can do some lesson planning practice, or you can do this next week when we're not here, and then maybe what I'll have you do is share it with me, so then I can start looking at these, so I can start seeing kind of how you're putting some of these pieces together. So obviously, you can, this is template number 2. You can combine this all into your template number 1, or you can copy and paste template 1, template 2, so what you worked on last week. Right, so we're just slowly going through and building the lesson based on kind of what we're talking about in class. So, excuse me, these sections are right, so you did write element 1 last week. You talked about your context, you did your desired results, you talked about your objectives, standards. So element 7, so we've started thinking about classroom design and all the things. So this obviously is thinking about the lesson that you're planning in particular. Think about all of those resources. Technology, right? So if we all have like some kind of tech areas or
Smart board, right, with tech, iPad spaces, right, we have all of the, like, smart board, right, we have all this tech stuff, so we'll start thinking about those. Right, thinking about engagement, so, right, and thinking about universal design for learning in particular, right, thinking about all the kind of things that you would provide. How will students be able to actively engage in this lesson that you're doing? Are there individual kind of components that they might do? Are there collaborative elements? So if you watch the observation video for the assignment last week, right, you saw all of these, right? All of these were happening within this kind of, right, it was a 20-minute video, but the lesson itself was probably more like an hour, right? She was small group stuff, right? They were doing individual work. Right, but there's this active engagement, this whole group time where they're talking about what they did before, they're graduating to this new level, right? They're doing something new. They're doing modeling, right? She's working with them in modeling, right? Using pictures to decipher and decode words. Then they are individually reading. She's doing some assessment and setting goals with them, right? She has those goal cards. And some of them too were working together. So you notice some of the students were kind of, in pairs, and maybe they were reading together. And then they all come back, right? So this kind of engagement piece, right, which is related to universal design for learning, right? Be thinking about that piece. And then obviously, right, this kind of differentiation, using universal design, thinking about how to support English language learners, or, thinking about how to support gifted students, right? So that's another group of students too that will need additional levels of support, right? That just because they know something more, right, doesn't mean that we should just forget about them, right? They need other supports as well. So, so thinking about this section, and then you did assessment already from the last one. So this includes, right, so all the stuff you were working on last week, and then the stuff we've covered this week. So, and again, this isn't something that you're going to hand in. So, I mean, I want to be able to support your growth and lesson planning before you get to the last lesson that you're going to hand in. So I think as you're working on it, if you want to share it with me, that'd be great. Happy to look at it, provide feedback, and maybe we'll build in some time too in class, because over the next, but not next week, obviously, but the following weeks we'll kind of finish this pre-K lesson up, right? And then we'll do some pair and share, and you guys can give each other feedback, and then I'll do some. Does that make sense? Kind of these next sections and how now we're adding on to what we did before. Okay, since everyone is wrap up, I don't want to just talk into all the speaking. All right, so yeah, so focus, try to get some of the lesson plan stuff updated. I really want to be able to review it so that you all are on the right track. All right, so next week we're not meeting in person. The first quiz will be low stakes, like 25 points or something, so no big deal. And so that is due basically by the end of the day on Monday when we would be meeting. The quiz is actually going to open like Saturday at midnight. So if you, want to do it on the weekend, go ahead. And it's all on D2L. So this is the first time I've actually done a D2L quiz. So someone tell me if it's messed up because I don't, I'm just like, well, I haven't used I usually use Google, right? Because we did the group analysis, but usually I'll just use Google Docs, and then I'm gonna try the D2L quiz function. So we'll see. Let me know that. It's both multiple choice and short answer. You can use your notes and textbook, but please don't search the internet. Because I'll just know that you did that, copy something from the internet. Just don't do it. Yeah, and then catch up on readings, work on lesson plan practice, or take the time to work on your curriculum model presentation.
And obviously I'm around, so if you need me for anything, just let me know. And then we'll be back on campus week 7. And oh, I moved some readings around because there was like, that's all updated in the syllabus. Checking on online. Like nothing crazy got changed, just some like chapters and stuff because I can't cover all this in one class, so we'll bump it. So, and then yeah, just some upcoming stuff. Cool. Yeah. Good. Man, you have 1 week of rest and then you better come back ready to entertain me. I feel like I have to like do some song and dance up here today. Get you all motivated today. It is fall, yeah. So now we're getting into our fall cozy mode, right? Yeah. No, really hope it's not like we don't get like it's 90 degrees. So. All right, so that's the plan. So, all right, any questions, thoughts? We're good? We're okay, other than like we're tired? Yeah. Okay. All right, well, get out of here then. And see you in a couple of weeks. If you need anything, you know me. If there's any quiz malfunction, so please just let me know and we'll extend it. You know, we're flexible here, so don't freak out. We'll all work out. All right, I'll take all of our beautiful classroom signs here. You guys can ask for the row. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, yeah. Connect. No, I don't know. Of course, I don't know. No, yeah, so then I spent like the tomorrow, yeah, literally is the thing that helps young children learn. So you might. I started to write a book. Like I didn't think. Yeah, I think bells are all different. I think that I'm like, they're really comfy. Yeah. They know the face. And there's like why that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Yeah. I was like, oh, like a what? Yeah, reading